patrols with our allies has really put the South China Sea as the top national security concern of the country. So the incident today was not is not isolated, definitely, and you whether or not we have a code of conduct, for example, that we've been working on within ASEAN and China, and how to deal with each other within that space. It hasn't happened, right? But the question is, why do these incidents happen? So you heard about the water cannoning incident, and there have been blockades to resupply our vessels. And so the latest one, I think, was on October 11. But before that, we had one on August 5, where the water cannons were shot at the two vessels. And to answer the question of the gentleman over there, I'm not sure what your context is, and I'm not sure if you've actually been to the area, but it's very, very shallow. So in order to approach the BRP Sierra Madre LS-57 on the shoal, we need a small boat, right? And obviously, there's enough personnel and enough intelligence, satellite and reconnaissance equipment, in terms of satellite equipment, in terms of the Poseidon aircraft, and many much more, to ensure that the safety of our troops, number one, is at the center, and then second, obviously, that we're able to rotate and resupply our vessel in the Yungan Shoal. So um I just want to bring you back to that. So the last incident was on the 5th of August, which is the water cannoning, right? And these are regular missions to support the outpost in BRP Sierra Madre. And it's of paramount concern to the AFP that we protect the country's interests. And it's even more concerning that we're being prevented by a foreign actor that has no business operating in that area from actually just doing our jobs, right? And I think that's the biggest issue. So the conversation around that and leading to today's incident was, how do you determine the threshold of an attack, right? So this morning at 6:04 a.m., it was reported that the China Coast Guard collided with a Philippine Navy contracted vessel, 13.5 nautical miles east northeast of the BRP Sierra Madre. And the AFP released footage taken from a satellite that it was the rear portion of this boat had made direct contact with the China Coast Guard vessel. In a separate incident, which was 6.4 nautical miles northeast of the BRP Sierra Madre, a Chinese maritime militia vessel, which means like these are not marked ships. They look like anything from dredgers to fishing boats to research boats, or whatever they want to call them. But they are part of the maritime force of China. Hit the port side of the Coast Guard vessel. Um, these have actually never happened before, right? But these are dangerous. These are coercive and illegal actions that we as a country strongly condemn, right? It adds to a list of aggression against the Philippines. But from an operational standpoint, like, it's a conscious and deliberate decision by the commanding officer of that of the Chinese Coast Guard vessel to continue with the course, knowing full well that it would collide with the Philippine vessel, right? And so they're taking riskier and riskier actions. And I think that after the incident on the 13th, where a Chinese Navy vessel actually crossed the bow of the BRP Benguet, when it was actually an RORE mission as well, was like a sign to us that, okay, they're pushing the envelope a little bit more, right? So they there's you hear the terms in international rule of law, international rules based order. They call for that, yet they operate in other countries' EEZs. They operate in a space where they are in an echo chamber and really would not have any other allies except maybe, I think, Pakistan. So when you look at it, right, like they are in violation of the Convention of the Law of the Seas, the international relations preventing collision at seas, and just basic like rights that are afforded to every nation that, let's say, is part of the United Nations that they are part of, and a party to the UN Security Council and a permanent member at that, which carries a lot of weight. So I think I'm gonna leave it at that, and then maybe the host can ask me some questions first. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for that, Carla. Nice. Yeah, you can ask questions now.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Carla, because we as you've mentioned, there are incidents sa West Philippine Sea even from before. There's the water cannon. Tapos parang even during the time of the former president, we have been hearing about it. Diba? We have been hearing about it. We've been reading about it, and diba parang we have hundreds of unanswered protest dun sa China. What makes is there a difference nung nangyari kanina since there's a collision? Iba ba siya sa mga incidents from before, or is it just as bad as before, or is it worse or something like that? I don't know. I just really wanted to understand.
Um, no, it's definitely escalated. As much as I can say, it's definitely
Okay.
escalated.
Can I answer
No,
that
no,
question?
sorry, no, hold on. Please don't interrupt. It's actually kind of rude.
Yes. Yeah. Evan, you want to ask something? There's a Facebook question, Carla.
Go ahead.
Ask ko lang po, may possibility po ba na papasukin ni PBBM? Ah, sorry. Sorry, it's a different question. Yeah, sorry. Jeffrey, sorry, it's not related to this. Anyway, gamer.
Yeah. Yeah, we have several people who wants to ask certain questions regarding our topic for tonight. Guys, feel free to ask questions now. ASC will be happy to answer it. Anyone? Go ahead, full plan.
Yan, okay. May question lang ako no na what about the United Nations or the international law? I mean, paulit-ulit na 'to nangyayari. Why didn't react or they're waiting for more catastrophe or something like that? So, yeah, I want to know more about the international law. Uh, ano yung
Um, what
moves? Yeah.
international laws apply? So, like we have a mutual defense treaty with the US, right? Which obviously enables the EDCA sites and the visiting forces agreement. But uh what's it called? It's really up to us to declare that we're at war, right? It's up to our Congress to say what our threshold of an armed attack is, and actually and actually invoke the treaty. That's number one. um it's in a space that's we're kind of like, we're looking at a very like irregular new kind of war that we're fighting. They're operating in what you call the gray zone, a gray zone, which is like kind of just right below the threshold of an armed attack, but not really. But like when, when do you see that like they're pushing the envelope more and more, right? When do you see that like economic espionage is enough, that they've actually, suck up more of your resources than like none of it's left for your country to develop? Like how, we have to create those parameters, I think, as a country, and create our own brand of statecraft, which is very important, and it leads to then, dictates, regardless of who is in power. It shapes the way we conduct ourselves, especially in terms of defending our territory and sovereignty.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Sir Doy.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry I came late to this discussion. So if you've covered this, I apologize. So have you discussed like why is it the Chinese Coast Guard that China's using and the militias to do all of this swarming and intimidation, not the Navy? Have we covered that? If
No, I do you want me to explain like gray hull and white hull
yeah, it might be
diplomacy?
helpful. It might be helpful. So today's incident involved the Chinese Coast Guard ramming
And the militia.
a civilian but chartered by the Navy, a civilian vessel.
Yes, but it actually had, sorry to interrupt you, but it had Philippine Navy personnel on board,
Yeah,
which then makes it
is it?
a Philippine Navy vessel.
It does. Okay.
Yes, 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 yes. So
So
it's like we're flying our flag, and
yeah,
we took over this boat. Yeah,
co-
because and we don't have like a jet ski to go that close to bring our stuff. No, really, that's
yeah,
really what it is, right?
yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
so shallow. Yeah.
And the other incident involved
Hmm.
our Navy vessel
Yes.
being bumped
Yes.
by a Chinese militia vessel.
That's correct.
So for
Yes.
the mutual
Yes.
defense treaty to be
Invoke.
invoked, is
Yes.
it correct that it has to be like Navy on Navy,
No.
like a
No. No. It does
no,
not.
that's not true.
No.
Uh,
No. Because they are part of their navy. They are part of their
well,
militia, like maritime force. They declared that already
uh,
themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Yeah. It's in their
because
policy.
China's been hiding behind the fact that the Coast Guard is
Mm-hmm.
unlike any other Coast Guard in the world.
Mm-hmm.
China's Coast Guard actually is part of
Operates.
their
Yes.
the PLA, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yes.
So which makes it actually unlike our Coast Guard, which is civilian, it's under the DOT.
Are.
Theirs
Yeah.
is under the military,
Yeah.
but they're
There are other
mass
places that are like that.
that are like that as well. But
Yeah.
they're kind
Yeah.
of hiding behind
It's
the white.
called the
Yeah.
gray zone. Have you heard of like the gray
Yeah,
zone?
the grays. So they're basically
Yeah.
gray zoning us, right? So
Yes, yes,
gray
yes, yes.
zoning, for those who haven't heard, is like it's just like what they're doing in Taiwan. Taiwan and China have a midway sort of boundary. Just
Yeah.
like yeah, halfway
Hmm.
between in the Taiwanese Strait, and that's supposed to be the red line where you shouldn't cross. But what China does is it just kind of disregards it, and the idea there is that by just constantly doing this, and they do this with their airplanes as well, by just constantly crossing that line, literally, they're just gonna force you to accept the fact, like that is the facts on the ground. Like it's a de facto situation, and their position here is that with the islands that they've reclaimed, or actually the entire Nine Dash Line, they claimed that previously based on their historical rights, and they're saying that that's there. So they're saying they're just patrolling their area. Of course, the Hague ruling threw that out and said that at most, from my understanding, because I did try and read the ruling, um, all they can claim are those rocks. Those are rocks, not islands. So they at most you can just claim like a 25 nautical mile radius around those rocks. Um, uh, we, however, have an exclusive economic zone. I mean, that's basically the Nine Dash Line doesn't hold, and all they can claim, presumably, is that 25 nautical mile around those rocks. But we have that exclusive economic zone. But they don't recognize, of course, never recognized the legitimacy, the jurisdiction, sorry, of the court, nor the ruling that it made. So that's the sort of, so what they're trying to do by all of this is they're acting as if that ruling doesn't exist and that they're just patrolling within their borders, basically. So that's so that's a situation for the So if that is not, so if the my so my question, I guess, is if the white, so if it isn't necessary for it to be a navy on navy encounter, what then would trigger, what then would consist of an actual encounter? You're saying that this is it. Did,
Um, I don't really want to talk about like quantifying it in a recorded space, but you can talk to me privately,
okay.
sir, about it. So, yeah, I hope you understand. But I'm happy to talk to you
Oh,
about it
sure.
in that much detail. Thank
Because
you.
yeah, because that's why I think they use the militias rather than,
How do I say
because
this?
those militias are, they're pretending that they're not really part of the navy. They're
No,
like,
they're not. They're not.
they're
They're
not
not. They're
technically,
not.
right? They're not
They
technical,
are. They are. They are.
but in a way they are. Yeah,
No, but they are. They actually sorry, they
they're
actually have them in their policy.
they're
Like
supported.
they
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
yeah, so it's part of their
But
sorry,
it
what do you call
gives
this?
them an area
Some cover.
of
Yeah.
deniability, right?
Yes, correct.
And I
Correct.
feel the same is true with their Coast Guard. It gives them that area of
So
deniability somewhat.
okay, so they have a I guess a policy that fuses civil and military operations and makes them then militarizes it, right? So in whatever, I guess, whatever, if they use lasers for on a militia vessel that's military grade, then that militarizes the action,
Yes.
right? It's
Yes,
actually like
correct.
it's the action, not like the how they perceive it.
Mm.
And whatever interference or incursion they're doing, whether it's a person that's here as a PLA reservist that's hanging out, on a beach, but listening, I mean, that's part of it. Like, he may be on vacation, maybe not, but
Mm.
again, he, in whatever space they're operating on under one operational like mission, and their laws essentially dictate that, right? Like, in whatever form, if they're a technology company and they have IT, data gathering capabilities, they have to send it back to whatever repository in the PLA. In the same way that a fishing vessel, if it looks like a fishing vessel, maybe sometimes it fishes, it does catch fish, other times it's shooting lasers. It's kind of the same thing.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sir Doy and Carla. I think Thea and then Evan. Go ahead, Thea.
Okay, hi guys. So I just want to make a comment on this. Alam niyo naman, my arguments here are firmly aligned with adhering to rule-based international law, specifically UNCLOS. Ito, yung stance kasi usually ng Pilipinas dito is really a purely Philippine stance. Yung mga sinasabi kasi ng iba na pro-US, it is debunkable kasi nga hindi nga signatory yung US sa UNCLOS. They are there because of the freedom of navigation. They are also not a disputing party in this conflict, territorial conflict. We still have friendly relations with China. So I just want to highlight that. Kasi hindi ibig sabihin na when we adhere to international laws, it does not necessarily equate into harboring anti-China sentiments. Ito kasi yung arguments ng iba. Yeah, you're pro-US, you're anti-China. We have amicable relationship with China. Now, when it comes to collision, I guess it is important to define ano yung ibig sabihin ng collision. So, yung collision as it pertains to vessel encounters, dapat merong substantial physical contact. Now, I have seen satellite videos and also AFP videos. And it seems that yung nag-provoke talaga ng collision, although yung collision medyo nasa tail end, but there are big ships here eh. I'm not sure if related yon or kasi nakita ko sa video nung una yung maliit na para siyang fishing vessel, but also there are big ships in the surrounding areas. And then I saw a video na kinolide talaga ng parang ano siya, deliberate collision ng Chinese vessel against the Philippine Coast Guard. So that the provocation speaks volumes, mainly I guess because sinabi ni Carla, like the Chinese, they patrol the area as if territory nila yon based on the 9-dash line claim nila. However, since we are arguing based on UNCLOS, yung rights talaga ng Pilipinas dito is that we have the right to refuel BRP Sierra Madre because that area, Scarborough Shoal, is part of the EEC. However, I also want to highlight, because I looked up yung rules sa EEC, even though it is our EEC, we also have to acknowledge and honor the concept of freedom of navigation. And yung freedom of navigation na to, ginagrant ng UNCLOS to states that have sovereign rights only over natural resources. So ibig sabihin, kapag ka EEC, the Philippines have sovereign over natural resources, but it also obliges them, yung UNCLOS obliges them to allow other countries to freely navigate the area. So that's another justification bakit nandyan yung mga yung mga Chinese vessels, but also other vessels can operate there by freedom of navigation. So now I think we need to focus on the collision. Sino yung nag-provoke? Um, well, I guess the Chinese actually provoked it. So this is actually interesting kasi nga may giyera ngayon sa Israel, Palestine, and also Ukraine, US. Tapos, are they gonna dip their alam mo yun, fingers in the West Philippine Sea? Are they gonna provoke another war here? Parang yun lang. Comment ko lang yan, general comment.
Yes, Carla, you want to say something, or we should move on to the next one?
No, I fully thanks, Faye. Thank you.
I'd like to react to that, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Sir Loy.
So from what I understand, freedom of navigation applies to vessels that are passing through, right? So like a ship carrying cargo passing through the South China Sea can definitely pass through our exclusive economic zone. But that's just it. They're just passing through. They're not supposed to fish there. They're not supposed to engage in any economic activity without our consent. I mean, that's, I guess, the meaning of exclusive economic zone, diba? And secondly, there's not supposed to be a coast guard there because that's not their coast. Yun nga yun eh. So the fact that China's coast guard is patrolling the areas if they own it, that in itself is, part of the gray zoning, I suppose, that they're doing. So yeah, I mean, and that's why the US and Australia and other parties are patrolling the South China Sea to guarantee that there's freedom of navigation, because what they are tending to do with these swarms of militia is blocking our access to our own fishing areas, no? And so by doing that, they're also signaling to China, we don't recognize that you have your claims to these seas, no? And they're trying to guarantee that, by sailing through it, they're basically saying, China, you don't own this, and we're trying to guarantee that we're trying to enforce the international law. Even though the U.S. isn't signatory to the UNCLOS, they still take it upon themselves, I guess, to try and enforce UNCLOS, even if they're not signatories to it. That's a bit the irony to it, I guess.
By the way, they are actually signatories. They've just actually never ratified it. Which
Ah,
is
yes,
the
sorry.
technicality. But
True.
just
Okay.
to
Stand
follow up with
corrected.
what you said, so from an international standpoint, the PRC actually, I mean, and from a security standpoint, what the position is, the People's Republic of China is committed to continue like their double standard in their application and interpretation of international law. Like that's what it is, right? So for them, it's part of their own territory, and their where whoever their maritime forces that they choose to put there are legitimate because it is their territory, based on their claims. So they, although we as a country and our allies feel that like we're, we follow international law, and we continue to pursue ways to hold them accountable for the incidents that happen, they do not see it that way, and their forces continue to violate, all these international regulations. So the question somebody accountable who doesn't actually see that that you're playing by the same.
But I guess the whole
Yeah,
conflict
yeah.
in Ukraine, and the whole conflict in the Ukraine is about the fact that great powers can just do whatever they want. That was the 18th century. That was, sorry, the 19th century rule, diba, of the great powers before
Yeah, I know, and
international.
China's never been one, so they want to be signing pusa, diba? And like,
Yeah, so
pero,
that in the 20th century, after the Great Wars, diba, we tried
yeah,
to create this normative system
exactly.
based on
No, but the point is,
international law.
kasi there's still rules of engagement, right? There's rules of
Mm.
engagement there, and with them, it kind of goes out the window, right? And
Mm.
I shouldn't say, let's try and not bring in other conflicts that are happening now into this conversation, because I think it just convolutes it. But
But
yeah, with regards to this, there's,
but
you're playing by a very different set of
I
rules.
think it's still relevant because China's seeing what was happening, and people are saying that China's seeing. This is why the Ukraine conflict is important, because China's taking notes on the situation. Can, like with what happened, can, if Russia succeeds, it emboldens China to do whatever it wants as well, and not adhere to the norms of the international rules-based order. So um, that that's what's at stake. And I think Biden's speech the other day, when he connected the Israeli conflict with Ukraine, the defense of democracy that adhere to rules, um, that was his point. That, like, if this system collapses, then basically anything goes, and we don't want that to happen.
All right. Thank you, Sir Doi. If you're just tuning in, you are here in the special roundtable discussion. This is about the collision in the West Philippine Sea. Earlier today, we have our resident senior security analyst with us to answer your questions, but we are open for um, discussions. Yeah, if you have questions and you don't want to speak on mic, you can what do you call this? You can have your questions there, so comment section. Pero if you want to request for mic, you're very welcome to do so. I guess it's Evan and then Food Plant and then Thea. Go ahead, Evan.
Yes, Miss Just. Thank you po. Tanong lang din kay Miss KSC, since she has extensive knowledge with regards to this topic. Sorry, tumakbo ko eh. Wait lang. Ano po, Miss KSC, kasi yung my question is, if what happened in South China Sea or West Philippine Sea will escalate into an external armed attack with regards to yung applicability ng MDT, Mutual Defense Treaty. According to the provisions, each party uh, will come to an aid of each other to meet the common dangers, di ba? Kasi I've read the commentaries of one of our prominent constitutionalists, si Father Joaquin Bernas. He said that if ever there's an external attack, uh, in our vessels or the United States in those agreed areas, na sakop ng ating MDT, they are bound to meet the common dangers in accordance with their constitutional process. But my question is, kasi in the Philippines, according to Father Joaquin Bernas, the the power to declare a state of war is lodged in Congress, but it is different from the power of the president to make an actual war. In a sense na the president, uh, our president, can declare a war even in the absence of the declaration of a state of war by Congress. And um, according to Father Joaquin Bernas, um, the president is bound to meet the dangers as it presented itself before the Congress can baptize it with a name, because according to our constitution, the president is the uh, has the primary duty to protect and preserve our territorial integrity, and you know he has also the responsibility to have successful military operation and see to it that our maneuverings will subdue, conquer, and destroy enemy. Miss Casey, my question is, the same ba yung mangyayaring constitutional process sa United States if ever that we have, for example, it will escalate into a full-blown war, external armed attack is committed in our vessels? Yun, Miss Casey. Salamat po. Salamat sa
Um, Thank you for your
pagsagot sa inyong
question, Ethan. Yes, of course, we have a constitutional process to follow. And that's actually a question that I've been posing to our policymakers, right? Is that like what is the threshold of an armed attack? And what are the placeholders we have in place? So like, okay, pag sumasobra na, how do we act? How do we move, diba? But because I guess, how do I say this? Because the actions of China have kind of operated in this gray zone. The collective response, especially with the U.S. as a partner um, of the Philippines, whether people agree with it or not, it's fact, and it has been a good partnership, and it has developed a lot in the last 2 years, I must say. Is if you can't actually predict, or you don't want to be too late to the party if something does explode, just like what happened in Israel, right? So that's the reason why you we have forward operating bases. That's why we have rotating troops. That's why we're always wargaming and training for interoperability, not just with the US but with other countries. And you'll see that happening more and more, as these threats actually become more real. Like I'll give you an example. We were able to resupply at sea for the first time this weekend, on the BRP Antonio Luna. What does that mean? We're able to resupply at sea. We don't have to go back to port. We can continue to stay out in our vast waters and fight if we need to, and not have to go back to refuel, to recharge our generators. Like that's a huge capacity, when in a fighting fleet, right? In an attack fleet. And that makes us part of the bigger fleet, that the seventh fleet of the US. Or for example, the Japanese come with that big, I don't know, I forgot the name of that boat, but their warships. We become then one fleet, right? And it allows us to communicate. It allows us to share resources, and that's a huge thing. It's a huge show of force. But positioning bases strategically, and actually planning logistically, I think is a huge deterrence, especially in an irregular environment that we're living in now. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Miss Casey. Miss Sir Gamer, can I make a quick follow-up question?
Go lang.
Sige, sige.
Sasamantalahin ko na si Ma'am Casey. Pero Miss Casey, I understand kasi mayroon tayong yun nga, yung maganda po yung sagot niyo na kaya nandyan yung US on rotational basis. Kasi one of the argument of Justice Antonio Carpio is that for US to be there or to have joint patrol with the US, if ever there's an armed attack or external attack to our vessels, they will act as a tripwire. And the United States will bound to act because it is an emergency situation. Kasi ang medyong misconception kasi dito, Miss KSC, if ever there's an external armed attack, the United States will go to their Congress to declare war. For the meantime, they are incapacitated to act because they need, in accordance with the MDT, they will act in accordance with their constitutional process. One of the process in which their Congress, uh, alam ko, yung nagwo-work is that they will have to, the Congress of the United States will have to declare war in order to act. Kasi, pero, ano yun, Miss KSC? Kasi, ako, in emergency situation, ah, yung inherent right to self-defense or to self-preservation, yung mamamayan eh. Hindi na nila, kaya nga kailangan nating mag-joint exploration with them at saka nandyan lang sila malapit sa atin if ever na we are supplying our ships or we are we are navigating in our exclusive economic zone for them to act as a tripwire because in emergency situation hindi na nila kailangan ah, ng ng declaration ng state of war by their Congress. Ang mangyayari na, ang mag-go-govern na is laws of nature, inherent laws of self-preservation of a state. Do you agree with me, Miss KSC, or kasi ako naman opinion lang din yun. I've also read it with yung prominent constitutionalist. Dinifferentiate niya kasi yung yung even in the absence of declaration of war, we can act. The power to make an actual war is lodged in the
Yeah, that's what you
president.
call natural law.
Yes, yes, Miss.
Correct.
Yes.
You're right.
Thank you po, Miss KSC.
Thank you too.
Thank you very much. Ms. Thea, go ahead and ask your question or anything.
I just want to acknowledge what the CUSP said about freedom of navigation around EEZ. But I'd like to note that under sa UNCLOS, foreign vessels, including yung Coast Guard, they actually have the right to freedom to navigate around EEZ. Yung problema lang kasi sa Chinese is when they constantly patrol, exert their law enforcement activities as if sa kanila yung area na yun. Well, according to them, sa kanila, because of the 9-dash line. And when you intimidate our fishermen, those are no longer covered by the UNCLOS. So they are actually now inconsistent with the rights of the Philippines. Now, sa EEC, by the way, now, yung sa MDT and declaring war, I know many of us Filipinos, we are wondering kung yung collision ba na to could be classified as an armed attack, which is under the terms of the MDT and international law. Kailangan yun to activate the MDT. So, yung collision na to, kasi subject to sa interpretation and circumstances. Ms. KSC, correct me if I'm wrong. And also the United States, they have to study the collision before they can conclude if this falls or this meets the threshold of what an armed attack is. Pero ito lang yung my personal plea because as you know, I've been posting about Israel and Palestine. In light with what is happening in Israel and Palestine, I think we should not be too quick to talk about the MDT kasi we need to think of the diplomatic considerations here. Kasi when we invoke the MDT or call for the invocation of the MDT, malaki at malawak yung malaking diplomatic action ito. And this will entail so much. Like this can escalate the issue in the South China Sea. At saka it will impact our relationship with Israel, US, China, and so on. I actually am calling for the non-interventionism from Philippine government. Yung tipong let's stand our ground. I know we are allies with Israel, but it should be better to always go for a stance that is pro peace. So yan lang, yung general ano ko. But my question to KSC is what should be what should be the proper stance here of the people? Are we gonna talk about the MDT? Are we gonna bring it up, or should we like call out na lang China and alam mo yun, assert our right here sa EEZ?
Um, actually, say what I kind of agree with taking a more how do I say this? How do we say this? A more pragmatic stance, especially with what's going on in other countries. But we also have to remember that we ourselves are have been going through this. I mean, how many when you saw the issue with the Pacific Anna, I'm not gonna go into it, and please don't get me started. But like that was like that really hit home for me, and just like the continuing like acts unnecessary acts of aggression and coercion, and just limiting our fishermen from these fishermen have been fishing there with like the Vietnamese and the Indonesians for like centuries, and so why now of all times are we not allowed to do that anymore, right? Like there's ways to share resources, and I think that's one major issue that I see. But I guess the how do I say this? Um, I I have put forward some key recommendations that I hope are heard to people who are going to be making these decisions. Um, I believe that we should, as a country, more than knowing we have a give you guys an example. So a couple of months ago, the you can look it up. I mean, I think they didn't make this a big deal, but the DFA and the DICT signed a memorandum of understanding to change the visa, like the visa requirements, and lift kind of these quotas that they had to allow for 2 million Chinese tourists to come in before the end of the year. Like there was revenge tourism, was what DOT was saying, and all these cruise ships and whatnot. So they took out like the requirement for them to appear at the embassy. They allowed for a new kind of visa for for cruise groups. So parang bulk e-visas without like the proper due diligence, essentially. I'm really shortcutting this, like, but without the proper due diligence that consular law requires. And mind you, China's like they only had from like January to September 83,000 tourists. So how would you from September to December guarantee 2 million tourists when your country is like falling apart, right? So that is worrisome. But second, so we have to make like in order for them, I guess I don't know, that might be an economic thing for them, whatever, right? But like we should be able to exercise diplomatic control over that and suspend all visa applications to the Philippines from China, right? First. Second, we have to think what are the impact of Chinese investments in the Philippines and exports in the imports into the Philippines? I was studying this and I realized that they are our biggest trade partner because they send so many so many secondhand goods here, like they're pollutants, they're I mean I can't like I have all the data, but like I was shocked to see that like whatever they send here or sell here are contributors to our major pollutants in this country, right? So the furnaces, ovens, parts for like power plants, but they're all like subpar. So do we really need them as a trading partner? Or are they just like giving us cheap goods and at the really expensive prices, or are we just their landfill? Second, um, because we've had questionable maritime vessels in terms of like the oil tanker and there are different I guess converted, let's both say converted civilian vessels that actually align to their like ro-ro conversions, for example, that are used for militia purposes, but they're actually Whitehall. um like questions on the use of categorization of vessels. We should be able to control what ports they go to and what they use access for, right? Because these are actually really harmful and might not even be contributing right to our own, the dredging, for example. They're all hanging out there, 42 of them there in Manila Bay. It's been canceled. Why are they still there? They're polluting the bay. So those are the things that I think we can do immediately that will hurt them and that will send a stand that we're actually really serious about, that these issues cannot continue, that these incidents cannot continue. And then last, I think that like we need to strengthen law enforcement, um intelligence and justice on cases against these illegal and undocumented Chinese people that are here. We've been deporting, I think it's like close to 100 people a day. Some of them don't even want to be accepted back into China. I don't know why, but again, they're not our responsibility, right? But like we've really stepped up law enforcement, and I think that we need to pressure the government to do the same. Tay, do you have any other questions?
That's actually, I actually agree with you. Um, I just want to add that the fact that the president has been going on a tour around the world to, seek investments. I guess this is a good way to diversify our, trading partners, and also it's so that we won't rely on China lang. Yun lang yung, well, counter argument to those who say we cannot afford to lose China as our trading partner. I guess that's why we need to open up the Philippines to more trade agreements and also investments from other countries. So thank you so much. Very informative.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Miss Tia. Go ahead, Cast, and then si Buddha.
Kanina pa yata naghihintay si ano.
Buddha?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Buddha. And
Ayan. I want to talk about the social media, and because we know like what happened in Ukraine, sa kapitbahay namin, and Russia, and then we all talk about this, and then like we always taking at this side and this side, and then like, here we go, Israel, and suddenly we just talk about this side and this side, and we need to watch out, like all of us, like what we're gonna post about this situation, that hope we really need to think about it, what we're gonna post about this situation, that they cannot trigger about the war or something, like always like accusing our government, why you not doing this, why you not doing like that. They are more professional than us, and they have all the files, and they know our capacity, sa Filipinas, how to defend our country. And I don't think so that we are ready for anything war, because we're just trying to, we saw it that BBM trying to get all investors they can to build up our country, and then we cannot afford any problem, like especially with the war. And what about the question is to KSC, is just like not a question, or what did you advise to all the social media to what's going on now, and how we can make it balance the situation to comment, and yeah, about the comments, and to how you're gonna publish it about this, and how we're gonna really proper to react, because mainit ang mga Pilipino about like this, and they're always saying like, bakit ginawa nito, bakit ginawa ng ganyan, bakit gano'n ito, diba? It's so dangerous, and they just, the people didn't think about really a proper way. So what can you say, or what can you advise to all of us sa mga social media?
My mom always told me, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. So I live by that rule. Yeah.
all right. Thank you very much for that, Buddha. So, before si Cast, I've seen a lot of comments or probably possible questions dun sa ano. I've posted some of them sa taas ay pinin ko sila. So, let's check one of those. Sorry guys. So, sabi dito ng isa, Mhm. Chinese opportunists, like China, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, East Timor, Thailand, Singapore, and the Philippines have diplomatic relations with Israel. So the Chinese are using the Israel-Hamas conflict as an opportunity to intensify their claims on undisputed. Is that something that we need to consider?
I think that's like I think that's like such speculation. We shouldn't even get into that. Sorry,
Uh,
unless we have an expert here about it. Like no.
yeah. Okay. So another one would be let's be realistic here. The U.S. and China will never go to war against each other because of the collision at sea between China and the Philippines.
I don't understand where that person's coming from, and I think he's like doesn't really know what the context is of the MBT.
All right. Okay, Marcus, probably you can ask this question later on. So another one is in the statement China released, they are saying that despite repeated warnings, we still insist on sending chips, quote unquote, without permission, end quote. So is a pragmatic approach asking for permission every time a supply run is needed? That's professors, right?
What? Sorry, again.
In a statement China released, they are saying that despite repeated warnings, we still insist on sending ships, open quote, without permission, close quote. So it is. So is a pragmatic approach equal asking for permission every time a supply run is needed? That's Professor's right.
No, no, it's not because it's our vessel.
Right. And another question also, how did they know we were transporting construction materials? If ever, that's an issue. Same question, Anthony.
Again, it's not their business. Whatever we want to transport is none of their business. Um, China gathers. I don't. Whoever with that guy was earlier. Um, MNLF spokesperson dude. He whatever he was saying, like how is it intelligence that's leaked, whatever. So okay, I don't know how you guys understand intelligence, but like China does not operate like the CIA, the KGB, the like these kind of more intelligent information gathering um organizations like Five Eyes or the Legion of Honor or the Legionnaire of France, like or MI6 even. China likes to gather crumbs. Like, oh, he'll make friends with the boat guy. Oh, how many times does his boat go back and forth? Oh, what's in that boat normally? Oh, where do you buy your mga tornillo, whatever? When does that? How many eggs do you buy in one like that? Okay, so they figured out it's 2 weeks. They get like little crumbs of information and put it together. Like they're not strategic about the information that they gather. They just gather a lot of it and then see what they can like get from it. Um, so the question of how they know, I don't know. I don't care how they know because I think that's how they gather information. But again, it's none of their business, and we don't have to answer to them.
All right. Thank you very much. But I'll be reading some of the comments or questions if they were later on. Let's go back to Cost, Evan, and Dia.
Yeah, that me. No, yeah. React the what was said earlier about the social media reaction, the emotional reaction of Filipinos, and no, and also what was said about senior associate justice, the retired senior associate justice Carpio's position about tripwiring and all of that. Yeah, I agree with KSC that we just need to, and with Thea, that we just need to take a more measured approach. All we need to really do is just report what happened. And then the international community, report what happened without too much editorializing or what do you call this? Without too much drama, because the international community will just simply respond. Because I think the more China does this, the more we turn the worse it looks for them. If we start acting up too much, all China really does is gaslight us by saying that, ah, no, you guys were the ones who started it, or like, you guys provoked it, the whatever. The, and then with Senior Justice Carpio, I think when I watched his presentations and talks, and he was sort of advocating that we intentionally go out and almost create a situation that would cause the MDT to come into effect. And that's not really something that we should seek or desire.
That's a lie, sir. That's a lie.
Yeah, no,
Is
yeah.
that a lie? Well, I mean,
That's
that's
a
what
lie. No, that's not true. Like
well,
he was so taken out of context. I actually asked him
no,
directly.
okay. So I mean, no, I'm not trying to spread lies. That was my impression when I listened to his talk. It's good that you confirmed that with him.
Yeah.
But that's what it sounded like.
You kind of get
Uh,
lost in his like 300 something slides. Sorry, like, diba?
yeah,
So
yeah.
he tends to. I asked him that straight up, right?
So I even read his articles and
Uh-huh.
you know, so no, I was really open minded about what he was trying to say. No, I was trying to comprehend what he was saying actually. So anyway, but that's my point, is that we shouldn't try to provoke a war. um, you know, all we need to do is wait this out actually, because from you raised the economic situation. China's in a really bad state. The danger is that Xi Jinping has centralized power so much he's he's insulated himself from dissent. He's taken on so much power that as the economy kind of has weakened, and you know, as all the people, the unemployment rate, the youth unemployment rate has gone up, their economy hasn't bounced back after COVID, it's in a slump, that this might cause, you know, the typical thing, you know, the wagging the tail, that, you know, a conflict is all that they need to get people's mind off their economic misery. Their demographics is not really looking good. So, you know, at home, they try to demonize. I mean, they try to say, oh, you know, we're actually under pressure. We're, you know, we're the world is treating us badly. So yeah, all we need to do is just wait it out, because I think their economy, their demographics, they will not reach the point where this is my punt anyway, geopolitically, it's like the Soviet Union. It just collapsed under the weight of trying to keep up with the, you know, with the need to beef up their defenses, and it just collapsed under that weight. And China's kind of teetering on that precipice with their demographics and their economy right now. So we just need to wait it out and have hope that our partners, you
Do
know, yeah.
well.
That's
They're
that's
kind
my
of desperate, though. I mean,
well.
I
That's
kind
the
of
worry.
disagree
That's
with the
the
waiting out
fear.
thing.
No, but
Yeah,
that's the fear, is that if we Xi Jinping might look for any excuse to start a conflict, to save his waning, like his waning authority and popularity with the populace. China's made a deal, right? We give up our rights in exchange for economic progress. You know,
yeah,
we
but they
can,
didn't get that.
but now that their economy is flagging, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Post
That's
zero
yeah.
lockdown and everything, that then
Okay.
therefore the legitimacy of the Communist Party is at stake. So the only way that out is maybe a conflict. So that's what we need to avoid at all costs. You know,
But
thanks.
like, I think that okay, so like we're talking about a kinetic war, right? Like that's what you're saying, like an actual armed attack, correct?
Yeah. No, no,
Okay.
no. No, I'm even just talking about a miscalculation a collision of two boats that
Yeah.
will cause one to sink at sea,
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
like a navy vessel
Uh-huh.
colliding
Uh-huh.
and sinking.
Like a miscalculation.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. That's what we need to avoid.
Um, Obviously, yes, but like when you okay, think about it this way, like first of all, China, the PLA, I shouldn't say China. Like I don't have a can I clarify this? I don't actually have a problem with the People's Republic of China. I have a problem with the CCP and their brand of statecraft and their governance, their approach to governance. Their disregard for human rights and you know, the way they view development. So that's my issue, especially as a security practitioner. So I don't want you guys to think that I'm racist, like I'm racist against Chinese or anything like that. Like that's really my issue. But something I want to really point out, right, is that like when we talk about modernization, when we talk about capacitating our defense forces, we talk, and I think that a lot of the older generals and people making decisions in this space are preparing for a war that we would have fought 30-50 years ago, right? We're talking about rockets and missiles and you know stuff that like really, I mean, if those are things that you can calculate, right? Those are things that like you can actually predict how far it'll go and how many people you'll kill and the effects, right? But like what nobody saw Pearl Harbor coming. Nobody saw Hiroshima and Nagasaki happening. Nobody saw the Nordic pipeline getting cut. um you know Nobody saw the 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 power of a country to take over a port and then put the country in so much that they would be able to take over an entire country. And that shows you actually that like the PLA are not a responsible the CCP and then the PLA are not actually responsible and therefore capable to operate at a standard that other militaries operate at the defense sectors and security practitioners of other countries, because again you're operating in very different spaces, right? So I'll give you examples of assessments that I've made recently about the PLA and them actually taking part in more. Like, so there's five incapables. They really cannot judge situations properly. That's why the chance of a miscalculation is very, very high. The messaging is very weak internally, so they don't understand the intention of their higher authorities. So therefore they cannot make operational decisions and they cannot deploy forces. But lastly, they cannot deal with what they don't know, with unexpected situations. So like today, for example, could have been a miscalculation on the fact of the commanding officer, because remember, when a commanding officer is out there on their own, they are the captain of their ship and they make decisions. So it could not even have been sanctioned by the bigger powers that be, right? Second, they've actually sorry, they've never actually fought a real war. And their capabilities compared to the levels of the world's most advanced militaries are actually not there, because there's a lack of understanding of why and how. It's just for example, they stole the technology for an F-16 and the supposed code that makes the paint stealth, but really they copied the wrong thing, so the thing doesn't even fly, and it's just gray because they copied the wrong paint code, right? And they wonder why. So, that they operating in a very different space. You don't know, yeah, okay, they have the most in terms of numbers, but like half of them, do they even work? Can their submarines even float? No, the missile imploded inside, right? So again, like the capacity is there's this fear of the unknown, but like I really wouldn't be scared of them, because if you war game them, 30% of them wouldn't even make it to the next destination. Okay, so and that's fact. So in terms of an armed attack, that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at other avenues that are even scarier than them dropping a bomb or them invading Taiwan. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. Are you done, Casey?
Never.
Never. Yes. Before our next question, I just really wanted to respond to what FP said earlier. Actually, I would ako lang this is just me. This is not from I'm not from the security sector, but this is where I'm coming from. Actually, yung our post on social media in support for our troops, the AFP, the PCG, and actually triggered a lot of good things, including but not limited to more budget for them, um, as per the Congress version of the NEP. And also, as we here on Twitter, or we here on social media, supporting the pro Philippines foreign policy of the administration, it triggers a lot of things. Did you know that we have a maritime zone bill now, which is already passed in the Congress, and now I think tomorrow around 1 o'clock will be heard sa ano sa Senate. So our support to the pro Philippines foreign policy of the Marcos administration actually resulted to a lot of things, na parang mas nagkakaroon sila ng confidence to have more initiatives na, alam mo yun, kasi we came from, I'm sorry, this is just my opinion, we came from an administration with friendlier to China somehow. So, I think that our social media post actually did great for us a little bit, but there's a lot of other things to do. That's more of a statement than a question. Gamer, who's next?
See, Thea, we're just gonna give the floor to Thea. I think she has some more questions.
It's not a question, but I just read the statement of China on this issue. So they are essentially blaming the Philippines for the illegal transfer of food and fuel to the BRP Sierra Madre, which is kind of ridiculous. And let's not forget that this reasoning is not rooted on international law. This is a blatant disregard of the PCA ruling. But even their assertion, kasi from their perspective, they still maintain their historical rights. Bingi-bingihan sila dyan sa, sa PCA ruling. Yung 9 dash line kasi does not get pala the support from the international community. Kasi nga, okay, I just want to take this opportunity very quickly to highlight that there are two types of claims, well, territorial claims. Number one, land claims. Second is maritime claims. When it comes to maritime claims kasi, yung international community talaga, we follow the UNCLOS. Even yung commercial ships, they follow that. Nandito si 3J. He actually explained this, which is kind of enlightening. UNCLOS is more organized versus sa land claims kasi we follow international norms there. So basically, kung sino yung first na nag-occupy ng land territory, sino yung first na nanirahan doon, sila yung mas may right. Sa maritime claims kasi, we have a more organized legal framework, which is UNCLOS. And UNCLOS has a near universal acceptance. Ibig sabihin, halos lahat ng mga countries, they actually follow UNCLOS, especially yung mga coastal states. So what we can do as a nation, kasi nga yung Marcos administration, yeah, we have bills that actually will, I guess, Just can talk about it. Pero we have bills kasi that can help us parang assert our right sa ating territory, maritime territories and EECs. So once it becomes a law kasi we have no choice but to assert it, 'di ba, by law, which is a good um, action from good initiative from our government. But what we can do as a nation is to study the PCA ruling and the UNCLOS. Kasi I used to scoff at the PCA ruling because of the journalists that I follow, the content creators that I followed, who forced this to be an issue of USA versus China, when I do not believe that a pro-Philippine stance is pro US stance. I also do not subscribe to the idea that a pro UNCLOS or international law stance is a pro US stance. And the reason why we should continue to cite UNCLOS and PCA ruling is that by 2028, the Marcos administration has a goal that all countries should support the 2016 PCA ruling. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Carla, but the other nation claimants in South China Sea, they have started to cite the 2016 PCA ruling. So, ito lang yun. Yung to legitimize and to make our claim credible. By the way, it's not a claim, it is our right to the natural resources in our EEZ. To make it more recognized, we have to assert it strongly, alam mo yun, but without compromising our trade relations with China. So yun lang, but we have a goal. By 2028, all countries, especially the signatories of UNCLOS, should recognize the PCA ruling and that the Scarborough Shoal is part of our EEZ and the Chinese has no right to be there to exploit our natural resources, I mean. Yan.
All right, thank you very much. Evan, go ahead. More questions lang.
Ay, sige po. Hi, KSC. Ano, tawag dito? Ano, ang another question ko po, ano, kasi we recognize that international law lacks mechanism to compel compliance. One of my professors in law school told us na ang ang pinaka-best solution is that for in the Philippine setting to have a uh, balance of power that we should have alliances that we can leverage or alliances that we can depend on in case there's an external aggression by another states or any other states who pose threat against us. Ang tanong ko kasi ano, Miss KSC, kasi United States was our treaty ally. We have existing MDT. Although in my perception, we should not be over reliant with them because they also have democratic election. Their leaders were installed or elected by popular will or by the electorate. Uh, Yun ang akin, Miss KSC and Miss Thea, if kasi hindi ako popular sa ano sa US politics. Natatakot kasi ako na there's a fear that if ever, kasi before I've read a report that Xi Jinping offered half of South China Sea to Obama and then Trump, but the two declined because it is against rule-based international law. But uh, there may come a time that uh, America will elect a leader who who advocate for isolationist America, and then uh, maybe Philippines will be left off. Tingin niyo, Miss Thea, Miss KSA, at saka dun sa ating mga kaibigan, Miss Joss and Sir Gamer na familiar sa American politics. Although, yun nga, agree naman siguro tayo lahat. We should not be over-reliant. Pero sino kaya yung candidates na medyo hindi isolationist for the American and magiging bad for the Philippines position in West Philippine Sea.
Um, Actually, I kind of tend to disagree with that. I would rather that the Philippines lead a conversation with in like a regional sense and create, you can create opportunities within the region, like for example with the Pacific Islands in Indonesia, that that will allow us to not to rise in our status and become a bigger power than what we are now, right? We can ask for support from allies in terms of capacity and knowledge transfer, technology transfer, but we don't have to be reliant on them. And that's why, as a defense sector, we're really pushing for the passage and of regulations to build what we call a self-reliant defense posture, where we actually will produce, manufacture not just armaments, but to become part of the critical supply chain of the defense sector globally. So we become part of the solution, and not just contribute to the problem and just take um resources, like, but we actually become a part of it and become critical to it, because we have the skills, and the know-how to manufacture here, and we should leverage that. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Miss KSC. Sir Gamer, sir, just can I make a quick follow-up question then?
Okay lang, pagbibigyan kita basta huwag mo tawaging sir.
Sige, Gamer. Ano, kasi Miss KSC, although I understand that we should have multi-alliance with Asian countries, Japan and Australia, Indonesia and Malaysia. Pero I think the degree of deterrence is not same with the United States. Kasi United States is a nuclear armed state. And the deterrence that it poses with China, another nuclear state, is uh, for me, to some degree, more deterrent than others. Even though we combine Australia and Japan, Indonesia and Malaysia, because they are not nuclear powered state. They have no nuclear weapons. Yun lang yung akin, Miss KSA. Do you think there's some uh, kumbaga, yung degree of deterrent ibaba doon sa multi-alliance with Asian countries and with the Western power, for example, like United States?
You know what's stronger than a nuclear bomb? Controlling people's food supply. Do you know that the Philippines and Indonesia together control a $450 billion fisheries industry? Do you know that? I bet you
Ngayon po,
didn't.
nalaman ko na. Ngayon,
Kaya
nalaman
nga.
ko na, Miss KSA.
Imagine kung
Mm.
hindi natin sila bigyan ng isda. Dami yan. Kakaproblema yan.
Thank you po. Thank you, Miss KSA.
You're welcome. Tsaka pa, po mo si Gamer. Po, Gamer. Po, Gamer. Tantahimik ni Alex.
Can
By
I,
the way. Alex, may sakit ka.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay,
Right,
sorry.
guys. Feel free to
Can I
ask.
address yung sinabi in question ni Evan? I do agree that we should not heavily rely on the United States to come to our rescue. Alam mo yan, hindi automatic yung MDT. Now, once we call the United States, oh, rescue us, it's not automatic that they will rescue us. Again, the United States is very strategic. But before that, you have to look at the nature of the conflict. Kasi nga, may mga prerequisites. Armed attack against the United States or against the Philippines. Alam mo yun, if it's an attack against a Philippine vessel, military vessel, it's an extension of our territory, yung mga tipong ganun. So they have to study the specific details of the incident, and then they have to consider yung geopolitical implications nito. When they activate the MDT, it can escalate, it can impact, alliances. But in regards to yung isolationists and politicians who tend to have isolationist views, meaning they're more nationalistic, they're more like focusing on inward, like US first or America first. The Republican candidates, also the Libertarian candidates, they tend to be focused on America. So they're not really interested in war. Actually, nung time ni Trump, ang daming pinauwing US military from, Afghanistan and other places. Usually yung mahilig lang naman sa mga gera-gera, yung mga those who are big on international alliances, like the Democrats. So if you
No,
look,
it's an economic thing, Thea. Don't you think?
it's a what?
That's why they declare war. An economic thing. Like their economy is like reliant on the defense economy.
Yeah, pero may mga Republicans talaga. If you follow US elections, yung mga candidates, there are those who are not interested in war. They just want to build the United States.
Yung tipong they want to withdraw the military aid from Ukraine, or maybe they are gonna reduce the $38 billion military aid to Israel, yung may mga ganon. So they tend to be more isolationist. So I, I guess tama yung sinabi ni Evan, we should not rely heavily. We are so reliant on the concept of, andyan naman yung US, alam mo yun, to come to our aid through the MDT. So yun lang. By the way, yung approach ni BBM sa West Philippine Sea talaga, sinabi niya during the campaign, explore all avenues to make a better, to arrive at a better pro-Philippine stance, which includes bilateral dialogues with China, which is ongoing. Also, he is trying to strengthen yung relationship, and I guess he is big on talking to like the other claimant nations in Asia, in the ASEAN, and also respect for international law. He is big on international and rule-based law. So, yun, nag-engage siya sa ASEAN. I guess that's part of yung mga state visits niya. It's part of the dialogue. I should know I'm a BBM supporter, guys. Anyway, yun lang.
Thank you, Madam.
Alright, nawawala si Gamer.
Dito ako, sorry, medyo nadidelay lang sa akin. Gamit ko yung ano. Hello?
Ikaw na.
Yeah, si Food Plant. Nakataas pa yung kamay niya. Go lang, guys.
Food plant is waving.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, I just want to ask if there's anyone, like, for example, if you are the president or if you have the power to decide about this situation, what is your opinion or what you're gonna do? What is your step if you are the president? Sorry to ask, but I want to see the clear answer or ideas about this. If we are the leader, or you are the leader, or one of us here, what we gonna do? What you gonna say to the president of China? What is your action about this?
I will not curse them for sure.
Para kanino naka-direct yung question?
For everyone.
Yung question mo ulit?
What
If,
are you
for
gonna say
example, if
to?
you're the president, or you are the one who have the power to do something, what you gonna do, or what you gonna say to the how you gonna talk with the president of China and about this situation, or what you gonna do, or what is your step? Because we are talking about this situation, we talk about this for many years.
I guess
Let's
I guess the
find out.
president is doing well,
So
personally.
I'm not talking about the president or other president. Duterte was there, and BBM was there, and some past president, they talk about this. So I want to hear something of your opinion. If you are the president or you have the power, what you gonna do?
I am big on rule-based arguments, but also I'm big on diplomacy. Combine the two together. Alam mo yun? So, and also strike alliances with the region. Yun, I am not big on war, talaga. But at the same time, I'm not the type who would give up on my right, especially if it's rooted on the law. Yun lang.
I think the question is like very hard to answer. Kahit para mukha siyang simple, but it isn't.
Gamer, nag-raise ng hand si Cusp. I'm
Yeah,
not
go ahead,
sure.
Gus. At saka si Just. Go ahead.
Ay, ako pala.
Ako ba? So, there's a saying, diba? Good fences make for good neighbors. Meaning to say, if your property adjoins another person's property, having a good fence actually prevents you guys what so I in this context I use that analogy, in this context, what is the fence? So the fence is literally the deterrence of our navy, our armed forces and our alliance, right? Who is like the village patrol in a way. Why doesn't China bother Indonesia that much? Why doesn't I mean they do get into a bit of strife sometimes, but not to the point where they're ramming each other's they're harassing each other, or for Vietnam, in Vietnam's case as well. It's because they have a really good navy, both these countries. um, so if we were so reliant on the US basis for so long, and the mutual defense treaty for so long, that we never really beefed up our defense forces, our defense modernization. Even the current trajectory that we're on, where we've um, raised it to 1% of GDP. I think China's been spending twice that at that rate, 2% or more for the last 20 years. So really, we are playing catch up, and so that's one policy lever you can push. The other one, of course, is the court of public opinion, right? That's why the UNCLOS ruling was very important, because if China is seen as illegitimate, if their claims are seen as legitimate by the China loses prestige. China loses what it really wants, which is its middle kingdom status. They want to be seen as having been restored back to where they were, when they were the richest country on earth. And so I think that's the thing. The other thing that I would also point is economic and food security. So we actually import close to $50 billion. We imported close to $50 billion US worth of goods from China in 2021. We exported to them only 15 billion in that same year. So there's a huge trade deficit. And so in terms of our trade dependence on China, right? We're actually a net importer. So the biggest thing that we import, the biggest proportion, is actually refined petroleum at 6.7%. So our biggest export to them is integrated circuits. So it's like, now I'm not saying we decouple from China, because that's impossible.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Before we go to just let me just remind you guys, RTD, a regular RTD natin would still be Tuesday and Thursdays, 8 p.m. till 11. All right. Just go ahead.
Wait, mauna na muna si Evan.
Yeah, yeah.
Ay, hello. Uh, uh, to answer the kumbaga, if I can be briefly answer uh the the arguments of Sir Cost. Kasi tingin ko, although China is spending three times than the Philippines in beefing up their navy, I think what we should have is to have a credible self-defense uh that in case of war, or in case of any external armed conflict, we could give China a bloody nose. And it is a alam ko it is a geopolitical trend that uh, Indonesia and Vietnam have a credible self-defense. And it makes China think twice into getting into an armed conflict with them because they know it is not worth it. Uh, 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 Especially with us, that we have mutual defense treaty um with with the United States because I think China also knows that a nuclear war with the United States will be self-defeating. They did not also want to make war with the United States and its ally. And I think, yun nga, katulad ng sinasabi ni Miss Thea, they are insisting, yun nga, yung mga warfare nila, they are insisting in their twisted historical narrative, and then they display their military might. They're they have they are first in a naval first naval power in the world. They presented it to the public in order to intimidate those countries which they are in dispute, um, in maritime dispute. At saka yun lang yung akin na we should have a credible self-defense.
All right, thank you very much for that. Right. And I think we have Austin here as one of our speakers.
Hi, magandang gabi. Good evening to everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, so sorry I came in late. Actually, I just attended uh, online forum. This is on the Belt and Road forum that just finished. No, just to share it. Was held in Beijing. Over 140 of global leaders attended, and all our ASEAN neighbors, headed by Indonesia's Jokowi, of course, Cambodia, and other ASEAN neighbors. Uh, Indonesia, Southeast Asian high-speed rail that cut the travel time for hours, 4 minutes, from Jakarta to Bandung. Hanoi got the first metro rail, and Cambodia is completing 400 kilometers of highways. Laos, that was 6 million people, was considered very poor. Is now they have 11 million passengers using the Laos China rail, and Thailand, Malaysia, even Singapore are configuring the standards of their logistics to connect with that Laos China rail because it cuts travel time and cost significantly. So I'm sure you've heard of durian being the top fruit now of Asian export to China. Actually, the Chinese they tell me that the Philippines is sweeter than the Southeast Asian neighbors. Right now, I think Thailand and Vietnam are the biggest, several $1 billion a year, where we're getting like several $1 million. But our durian farmers are saying we can produce more. Chinese are saying they want to buy more, bigger and more, and we cannot produce enough. No, so I just wanted to connect it to the West Philippine Sea. I think, of course, we should fight for what's ours. We should fight for rules-based order. But it's really disheartening that our neighbors are getting all of these. As one of the speakers mentioned, even Indonesia, Vietnam have far bigger maritime issues. There's also a maritime area that Vietnam and China fought and even shot each other over. But China allowed, no, quote unquote, Vietnam to partner with Russia. But all the oil that they produce are sold to China at a discount because of the Russia and the Ukraine war. No, so you can see how this geopolitics work. But on this West Philippine Sea, no, timing is also usually actually other of the timing, because as you know, the Israel Palestine issue and our Filipino and some of the speakers here are also thought leaders in this very unfortunate development, the Israel Palestine. But you can see the Filipinos are becoming more aware, no, becoming more conscious of the bigger issues. We're not condoning any of the killings, right? What Hamas did in October 7 is should be condemned, but also the history. So PBBM made a statement. VP Sara made a statement. Former President Duterte made a statement. So you can see like it was becoming a hot issue. And then this West Philippine Sea issue erupts again, right? So the question is why. And then I'm sure you've heard Biden is asking for $100 billion for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, but not even spare change for the Philippines, right? So why are we fighting over uh, uh, rusting World War II ship in Ayungin Shoal, no, that even the US will not fight for us. We're not even looking at the economic needs, not even with China, right? Just with our neighbors, but yeah, something to add to the
Ah, parang may pa ba si Austin? Parang napupunto na tayo.
I'm here. Sorry,
Can
yeah,
I
I'm
just
still here.
answer
Thank you.
that? Are you done?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, thank you.
I just wanted to answer the fact that like you're saying going to the Philippines. So there's actually a special law that was passed called the Pacific Deterrence Initiative, and $9.1 billion has been committed to the Philippines by the US government, not through a presidential grant, but actually an act of Congress.
I think for that information, we get more detail how we brief that for even
Austin, medyo robotic ka.
because if you hear me again, sorry, hello, can you hear me again?
No, we can't hear you.
Still
Okay.
the same.
I'll just type it. Thank you.
I think he's getting his news from Richard Haydarian.
Nako, KS. Yeah. Probably, tapit ka ng konti lang sa router mo or like only change Wi-Fi connection. Probably, ano lang. Austin, are you still there? Check ka ba? Austin?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can everyone hear me
Yeah.
now? I changed
Oh, yeah,
Wi-Fi.
okay na. Mas
Yeah,
okay
no,
na.
I was asking. Thanks for that additional information. If we can have details how it can be used for economic development, and you know, I'm not saying we fight with any of the country. No, the U.S. has given us a lot of benefits. We, you know, our the U.S. innovation education system is still what the Philippines need, and more aligned in terms of systems and values. But as much as we should fight for what is right in the West Philippine Sea, if we look at our neighbors, I'm sure President Marcos has gone around, no? So why did we not send high-level officials to the Belt and Road, where Xi Jinping committed another 60-70 billion dollars for infrastructure building, and that are all of our neighbors, they sent top leaders, and we were not there, no? So yeah, let's fight China over the
Because all they do is actually commit and not deliver. Like
uh,
look at what happened to North Korea. They have not delivered on any of their pledges, and it continues.
uh,
So
uh,
sorry.
share which one is actually
Sure, I can share with you as much information as you want.
sure,
Just send me a message. Yeah,
yeah, sure.
sure.
Just on real note, China partners actually delivered $100 million the Philippine capacity, and of course bureaucratic under the table issues, which was actually covered extensively by Roel Landingin in one of the PCIJ news magazine, that as much as the problems were also from our end, but not to mention the North issue. China delivered $2 billion, right?
Yeah.
Delivered over 5 million, so plus 10 million rush delivered emergency weapons for our Marawi soldiers, also Russia, when the US and our European partners initially blocked the deliveries. Of course, they said it was a human rights and congressional issue, no? And of course, China buys our biggest bananas, mangoes, durians, and apples. So again, we want more cooperation. Say that China did not offer. I think that's a part of
We really can't hear you. I think you should leave the space and come back. Like I'm sorry, we can't hear you
Sure.
properly.
I just think about it. Or if you want to share, I can share more details. Thank you.
Hello? Yeah.
Napuputol-putol siya, nag-robotic yung...
Sige. Austin, if you want to speak again, you're welcome. But you need to go out and then come back again so you can have a better audio. Because
Okay.
I'm waiting.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you. Yeah. I will do the as advice. Thank you.
Okay. Wait lang. Sige. I just wanted to point out something that KSC said. The pledges of China that doesn't actually materialize. Aside from what you already know, the articles of Hidarian, it's not just it. There are a lot of even studies about it. Na parang it's either a debt trap or pledge trap. Kaso, in our case, aside from what Austin has been saying, that is nothing compared to what was promised to us and what we gave already. Parang ito na lang, just recent news, just this week, we have the was that
North
the
Rail.
North Trail, right?
Mm,
Part
correct.
of what has already been pledged to us. Not even parang case, hindi ba parang it's already ano
No,
na siya, it's a
borrowed
project
na
na.
nga eh.
It's a
Tapos we
project na.
reviewed it. Yeah,
Yes,
nothing.
it's a project na. Tapos let's talk and don't get me started with COVID responses. You will say that they gave us vaccines, but saan ba natin binili 80 or 90% of our vaccines in a price that is not too friendly and an efficacy rate that's not so good and expiration date that is not really so good. So they gave us 10% of that, but the 90% we have to buy. And how much of that expired? So it's not really an ayuda. It's more of free sample. You
Correct.
understand where I'm coming
Correct. No
from?
testing. No, correct,
No
correct.
testing.
Well,
So
hold on. What about the $700 million advances to shareholders in a telco that is not working? Right?
exactly. Diba?
Okay. Yeah, correct. Go pa.
So and that sorry
And
Austin,
also,
I know that I've been following Austin. I've been reading his posts. He's telling us a lot about what China did for us. But that is nothing but walang-wala siya sa what was promised and what we already gave China. Since sobra. As in, when Duterte visited China, how much was promised? How much materialized? So it's not just here in the Philippines. It's
6.1 trillion.
yes. Hindi lang siya sa Philippines, just mind you, ah. It's in they do that sa India, they do that in some other countries. And it's been established not just by a Richard Haydarian article, but of course there are a lot of studies about it. So I just don't understand where Austin is coming from there. Gamer.
Maybe he's a consultant
we might also try to
or
acknowledge
part
that
of a think tank.
meron
Do they
naman
have
din
a think
nangyari.
tank?
But
Do Chinese think? I'm just kidding.
Go ahead, Casey.
Hindi alam ni gamer kung paano siya magre-react.
Kaya,
Yes, the opinion of the speaker does not necessarily
reflect of the members. Joke.
Yeah.
Ano na, guys? Ano na? Okay, raise your hands. Pass your
Hindi, kasi
papers.
ako lang naman, parang what I'm saying is that, yeah, there are certain pledges na nag-materialize naman, but the major ones, like, ina-expect natin, didn't really materialize. So, ganun lang.
Can you let Alex talk?
Yeah.
I haven't heard Alex.
Oh my,
Alex.
I'm cooking. I'm midnight snack. Wait,
Cooking, I don't even
I
hear
don't,
you.
wala akong ambag for, I just want to say that,
gamer. Ay, sorry.
they
Yeah.
just, okay,
Nakataas yung gawin,
I will set aside, let the others speak. Naka-raise yung hand sila.
Gamer.
Hmm.
Quick lang ako, promise.
Go lang.
Yes. I just really wanted to point out na parang it's ridiculous for me. It is my personal opinion. It's not opinion of the RTD. It's ridiculous for me that when we're reacting to what's happening in the West Philippine Sea, ang defense ng mga pro-China narrative it is the influence of Western media. That's not it. I know there's a statement from our government, from the Philippine government, and there are video footages, etc., etc. We react as we see fit as Filipinos. So please do not discredit us into saying that we are being influenced by the Western media or the US, etc., etc. We are reacting right here as Filipinos who's rallying behind a pro-Philippine foreign policy and our men, the troops, the AFP, the Navy, at saka part pala na yun, and then the PCG. So that's where we're coming from. So please do not discredit what we say by saying that we're being influenced by whoever. Thanks.
All right. So, ay, bumalik na siya eh. It's gone again. Wala siya. Ayan.
I was
Go ahead, Casey. Casey, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. I can-
I said for all those people who have nothing nice to say and just complain and say the government's not doing enough, blah blah blah. Why don't you join the reserves? Why don't you contribute in your own way in as much time as you can actually put aside, whether it's like once a week, once a month, whatever it is. Like, why don't you join the reserves and be part of the solution? That's all.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So, si Evan, Cas, at saka si Thea. So, yeah. Hindi natin kita kung sino ano.
Yes, sir. Sir, in addition lang dun sa sinabi ni Miss
Sir.
Casey at saka, gamer. Gamer, bro.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yes, Chong.
in addition dun sa sinabi ni Miss KSC at saka ni Miss Just, yun nga, in my opinion, the Philippines did not see China as a country that we can deal with in good faith. Because, for example, they have promised pledges and investment to us, but less than 5% materialize. Even though they promise a gargotan investment and pledges. Another is that uh, during the time of Duterte, although I think President Duterte believe in good faith that and he is a chief architect of our foreign policy, that we can have an appeasement with the Chinese and they will have answer it with favorable concessions with the Philippines, but that did not materialize also. In the meantime, he allowed Chinese fishermen to fish in those disputed sea. And what happened? They fish galunggong and they sell to us those galunggong. It's like a Spanish friar encomienda system again that brought us to revolt against an imperial army. We are in the first Asian country who fight against unfavorable economic system imposed on us by the Spanish friar. It's like encomienda again. Uh, they will catch those fish, galunggong, in our exclusive economic zone and then sell it to us. And another is that although President Duterte make an appeasement with uh, uh, Chinese China and Chinese President Xi Jinping, uh, they 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 cease in 2017 Sandicay. And I think it is not a good faith bargaining with another country. And in my opinion, Philippines did not see China as a country who can be trusted.
All right. Has pa tsaka si Tia. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, with respect to Belt and Road, despite the examples cited by Austin of recent examples, we have to look at all the other countries that had an experience with it. So throughout the Indian Ocean, you go to Africa, and they're all kind of like public opinion about regarding China has actually turned sour because of these projects. In many cases, it was because all the investment went to Chinese contractors, and the implementation, that's where it sort of fell apart. We have to understand as well what China's agenda is with the Belt and Road, and that is to basically create like another block of countries from the global south. China actually wants to form a power block in the world that will counterpose against the North Atlantic, the EU, the US on the one hand, and that's why it's also very actively pursuing the BRICS with Russia and South Africa. So it's kind of like when with Ukraine, for example, Joe Biden was trying to muster the alliance, but and was trying to get Latin American countries like Lula. Lula came to the White House, but he fell short of just condemning and going all in. So it's that kind of world that we live in, where the global south economically is gonna play a big role, and the Belt and Road. China's investing, by the way, in North America as well, Nicaragua, El Salvador, in America's backyard. So they're all over the place with this thing. So we have to just be careful of thinking of it as kind of like a neutral space, and it's gonna redound to our benefit, etc., etc. We kind of always say that about the IMF, World Bank, but what I don't get is somehow China gets a free pass when it does the same thing, only because it's the new kid on the block. There are other avenues naman for raising capital. The Asian Development Bank, for one, is trying to position itself as the green bank to set up all these green energy transitions. So we can leverage all of that. We don't necessarily have to subscribe to the Belt and Road, given the experience we've already had in countries like Australia, for example, that first signed up to the Belt and Road, then withdrew later on because they realized it's a strategic game that China's actually playing. And then I'm just struck how Bongbong has moved. Initially, he wanted to walk and chew gum. He wanted to be besties economically with China, but strategically partnered. That's the same line that Australia tried to walk but it has since kind of had to say we need to de-risk from China, we need to build sovereign capability. COVID, the wars in Ukraine, it's changed and then of course China's emerging assertiveness. It's all changed the nature of the international relations and the game that we play now.
All right, thank you very much, Atea. And then we can still continue on the discussion ni Austin kanina. And then, yes. Go
Okay,
ahead.
very quickly before I leave, a quick um, opinion on Belt and Road Initiative. I'm actually supportive of it because it challenges the SWIFT system. So we think that this is just about the global infrastructure strategy. It is just about building, alam mo yun, infra projects such as road, railways, ports in Africa, Asia, Latin America, I guess Latin America, and some parts of Europe. But what I see here is basically challenging the SWIFT system. So SWIFT system is basically, you know, how we trade in US dollars, right? When we transfer money from one country to another, it has to be in US dollars. And I see that as as problematic kasi nga the United States will reap all the benefits. So now, I'm not gonna go deeper into how it will challenge the SWIFT system, but basically it provides alternative financial networks, and countries will have the option to pay off not in US dollars. Basically, we're bypassing US dollars. We can use Philippine peso through the currency Swift something. Kalimutan ko kung ano yung program na to. Basta, ganito kasi yon. Now, when we trade kasi, for example, I trade with China, like as an individual, as an entrepreneur. What we do right now is we convert our money in US dollars. So now, yung China kasi, it has a program wherein we can agree to bypass US dollars by withdrawing yuan from the central banks or the banks in the Philippines and pay them in yuan. And they also pay us in peso. Yung mga ganon. So it saves us the middlemen and also the service charges. But hindi yun yung point ko kung bakit ako nagsalita. Comment lang yan about sa BRI. I actually invited Austin here kasi I find him to be more reasonable sa kanyang stance. And I think that what is missing right now in the Philippines is, you know, people who do not necessarily agree on how we should approach the West Philippine Sea issue to come together in one place and have a reasonable conversation. Kasi right now, the conversation is, oh, pro-US ka, pro-China ka. Wala man lang ako naririnig na pro-Philippines. I would have wanted to hear arguments na, okay, if I am gonna make a pro-PH argument and you are gonna counter me, how is your argument a better pro-PH argument? Nakaka-turn off kasi yung sinasabi na, oh, pro-US ka. I do not see this as pro-US at all. It is pro-Philippines. Kasi nga, we can all agree na like hindi naman signatory talaga yung US dito. So now, if we come together and have a conversation and agree on things that we agree on, and then on some things that we do not agree on, then we can, alam mo yun, some sort of like brainstorm on how we can have a more nuanced position. Hindi kasi, while people see this mainly as a pro-US or pro-China, I mean, I don't think international law or like a territorial dispute is that black or white. I mean, we have to explore different avenues to come up with a better or the best pro-Philippine stance. So now, if we can agree that UNCLOS is important, then how can we use that now to negotiate and engage in bilateral talks and dialogues with China so that we can have a better deal? We're talking about a better deal here, hindi yung kawawa deal. So yun lang. I hope that we will have more spaces na related sa West Philippine Sea, and then we will invite the task force West Philippine Sea people here so that they can hear our sentiments, basically the voice of the people, a more reasoned, not rabid voice. Alam mo yun? And then, discuss with them some stuff. I think the Marcos administration naman is consultative. So, I think like they will listen to us. Yun lang.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. You can go ahead and say your piece before we end this RTD session natin. Go ahead, Casey.
Di si Austin muna. Pasalte mo to si Food Plant.
Go, Austin. Welcome back.
Hi, I'm trying another Wi-Fi. Can everyone hear me? So sorry for the garbled earlier. Can everyone
It's
hear
okay.
me?
It is
Yeah.
very clear.
Thank you. No, actually, thank you, Thea, for inviting me. We don't always agree. There's several hot issues that we also disagree, but I agree that we should be discussing how we can get a better deal. I'm Chinoy, but actually I grew up in the U.S. I love the U.S. I have very good friends from the U.S. I think like this because of my philosophy and history professors from the U.S. and not from China. But at the same time, I'm Chinoy, so I can understand where China's coming from. I think many of our friends here also either have Chinese blood or Chinese, very good Chinese friends. No, so I think we should go beyond the pro US or pro China, but let's ask what is good for the Philippines. But more importantly, is what is good for the Filipino people, because the world is really, as everybody I'm sure know, it's going through very uncertain, very unstable situation. Almost every week we have hotspots erupting, right, from Ukraine, from to the Middle East. Even the Middle East, it's a decades long issue, but the blowing up is happening so quickly. I'm sure you guys are following it on Twitter, no? And that's something we don't want to happen in a region. This is not confidential anymore because I remember it was a Senate hearing where former Secretary Cayetano said that China has missiles. I'm sure you guys know this, right? China has missiles. It's called Dongfeng, Dongfeng, from Hainan that can reach the Philippines, right? AI, drone technology uh, uh, is the next warfare. No, it's actually dehumanizing. It's actually very scary because before you have to shoot each other face to face, right? So there's a human factor, but now you just press it from a button from your headquarter. So it's very scary, and we don't want to be in the middle of it. You talk to any Taiwanese friends, they will tell you they don't want to get into a war with the China and the US, right? But why is the US sending $6 billion to Taiwan? No, so again, I'm not against that. If it can help the Taiwanese people, all the better. If the US can give us money to help our military, because we really have to have a strong military force. I agree with the earlier point that a strong fence keeps our neighbors responsible, right? But there's also a saying, kawain mo na yung kamag-anak mo, wag mo lang kawain yung kapitbahay mo, right? So we really have to work with China. I think everybody agrees we cannot disconnect from China. But the question is, how do we take advantage? But just to point out, just I know you know, I also have some information about this, but the expiration of the vaccines actually came from I think other brands, not from the Chinese vaccine. You talk to any of your medical friends, the Chinese vaccines, although there are questions on the phase 3 studies, the ones that we got, they were saying like the 50% effectivity. I don't have the fluency now, but they're saying that that's still 50% safer from the infection of the vaccines, right? So whatever we could get, from any friends, but in the first few months, I'm sure you know that it was difficult to get the Western brands. I have family members, that Chinoy family members, that waited for the Western brands, right? But they came in months later, and some of them unfortunately did not make it, right? But talk to any frontliners, I'm sure they'll tell you that having additional face mask, additional vaccines gave them some security, and I'm sure it saved a lot of our friends also. No, but just to say that the Belt and Road is not charity. I agree with Thea and the others who said the Belt and Road was not charity. China giving us the medical supplies, that was not charity. We cannot expect charity. It's not going to be sustainable, right? The whole world, even the US, was hijacking medical supplies from allies coming from China, because it was really a wild, wild west. And that's what we can expect if there's a World War III. That's something that I think everybody in this room wants to help avoid. And I appreciate everybody being open and letting me speak. Thank you so much. I'm okay. The host, thank you. I think I overspoke. I hope you can still hear me.
Yes po. Hindi naman po.
Yeah, thank you,
Wala naman
Asa.
siyang overtalk. Yeah.
Gamer, I have a
So, food plant.
suggestion.
Go ulit. Yeah.
Food plant? No, me. I raised my hand earlier.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my last message, sana wag na natin to masyadong i-trigger o yung mga social media nakikinig sa atin. Wag na natin to masyadong palakihin. Magandang pinag-uusapan natin kung anong solusyon na para palakihin pa ito. Totoo lahat ng karamihan ng mga narinig ko. Ang China, lumaki na tayo. Siguro lahat ng mga nandirito, lahat ng mga pinanganak dito, mula pinanganak tayo, kasama na natin ng China sa mga business. At nandiyan ang Chinatown, sa unang-unang Chinatown sa buong mundo. At malaki na itulong nila. I'm not for China or for some. I'm Filipino, even I'm a mixed blood whatsoever. Mag-focus tayo kung saan tayo makakatulong, hindi kung saan tayo makakagulo. At nagtitiwala ako sa presidente natin na is doing his job to protect our country and our land. So let him to do his job, and we need to just support the government, At ibigay natin kung ano magandang opinion natin, hindi para makasira tayo whatsoever. Kaya maganda itong pinag-uusapan natin. At nagpapasalamat ako sa mga speakers, sa host, napakaganda ng mga narinig ko at hindi tayo nagkatalo-talo who's right or whatsoever. Nagbibigay lang tayo ng mga opinion ng ikabubuti ng para sa bayan. And one more thing, it doesn't magkaroon man ng gulo o wala, we need to think about it. Kung meron ba tayong pagkain sa bahay, meron ba tayong tubig sa bahay, we need to be independent. Because the world is like the problem is the food security. At kada nagkakaroon ng gera sa ibang bansa, tumataas ang presyo natin. At kada taas ng presyo, itong pag-uusapan lagi natin. Tayong mga Pilipino, magtanim na tayo sa mga bakod-bakod natin, be independent, at mas nakarami pa itong pagkain, pwede pa tayo makatulong sa ibang bansa. Dahil pag nagutom din ang kapitbahay natin, pwede rin tayong puntahan. Mahalin ang kapitbahay, mahalin din natin ang kapwa natin. So, mabuhay tayo mga Pilipino. Thank you.
All right. Thank you
Food
very much.
plant party list.
Yeah. Right. All right. Go ahead, Alex.
Gamer, can you hear me? Yeah, I was
Yeah?
like, I just want to
No.
follow up. Like, yeah, let's continue to do spaces where, am I clear? Is my voice edible?
Yeah.
Yes, kanta ka muna. Go.
Char lang, char. No, I'm just saying that, yeah, like we've seen like people doing some kind of forums, right? So why don't we invite the task force for West Philippine Sea, invite somebody from the Philippine Coast Guard, and then another one from maybe I guess PCO, so that they can explain what's happening sa West Philippine Sea, forum style, and then maybe we should call it Ensaymada Forum or something. Parang ganon. That's a good idea, right? So yun lang.
Sige pa. Okay, next speaker.
Or, sabi mo muna kung saan galing yung ensaymada, then we're gonna talk. So anyways, KSC, go ahead.
Is this the last na? I mean, has everybody spoken?
Yeah.
Where's La Etera? Is she
Yeah,
here?
andun siya sa baba. Yeah.
Grabe mga ano yan pero hindi naman nagsasalita. Ewan ko. First of all, thank you for having me. I feel so special. I know I'm special. No, I'm kidding. No, really. Thanks for having this space like so soon after the incident. I think that we need to have more, but kind of like maybe more of like a down, like, hey, this is actually what happened. This is indisputable. Whether you have an opinion about it or not, keep it, to yourself, but like actually just a source from like a thought leader, whoever it is, that's concerned, the issue is concerned with about at the time, right? And it's like not really anybody's opinion, but like being the person that is there who can share the best, I guess, information on the matter. Um, that's one. Second, I'm not sure if Austin was here when I was talking about it, or Thea, but I spoke about a self-reliant defense posture and supporting policies that actually enable that. This was something that was started during Marcos Sr.'s time, and it's what enabled the Bongbong rocket, the jeeps that Sarao made for the military, we etc etc. And then when everything went to SHIT, they sold the steel national steel company to Malaysia, who obviously was one of our adversaries and didn't want us to capacitate because of Sabah. And then they just I don't know what happened to it, but we don't didn't get to continue that. Anyway, what I'm saying is um I've been in government for almost 8 years. And for most of my time, I've written policy and I've seen the gaps that policy can address. But what has really divided and made implementation so hard is I'm sorry to say, but the corruption and the culture of impunity behind development. Like we need better leaders. Like we need people who think of the country first. Like I could sound like an American. Sure, I work for American think tank. I'm the first Filipina at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. If that's not an achievement, like you know, like that is to me, but that doesn't make me pro America. That makes me who I am, right? It's a huge part of who I am, and it allows me to contribute in a much bigger way. Hey, if like I got invited to go to school in China, I would gladly do that, right? I would love to see their perspective. I would love to understand it. And that's what people like researchers and academics do, and that's what they contribute to this space. It doesn't actually necessarily mean you have a political leaning. You don't need to have a political leaning. I don't care who the president is. I just want them to do their job, right? Like there are people like that who still want something better for the country, and that's what I'm saying, right? Like now we're in a space where we can actually bring people together. Let's bring people together, but not just bring them together to have a conversation. Bring people together who can actually provoke action and provoke thinking and challenge our policymakers and our decision makers to move and act towards something that is pro Philippines. Thanks for having me, guys, and see you later in the Banlao.
All right. Thank you very much.
Can I
Yes.
comment a quick one to KSC?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, KSC, no, I just want to add, actually, being pro-American is not nothing to be ashamed of. There's a lot of, especially the think tanks. The think tanks from the U.S. Individually, they have actually moved. I studied in China for my master's, and the Chinese professors use American textbook. They look up to American professors, American thinkers, and some of my African and Middle Eastern friends ask the Chinese this is 9 years ago, no? And the African and European friends asked, can we have more Chinese examples, Chinese stories? And the Chinese professor said yes, but our Chinese textbook also this is economics and international relations, no? Our Chinese textbook actually borrowed and learned from American textbooks, no? The Huawei founder says that his idol is Steve Jobs and he has an iPhone, right? So there's a lot to learn from American individuals. We're against the lies, no, not necessarily from America, but the lies and the warmongering or the military industrial complex. But I completely agree with you that the reliant posturing, being an independent country, we need a strong military, number one, but we also have to have institutions, as I agree that no matter who the leaders are, the gains that each administration makes, we don't have to reinvent the wheel every 6 years, which our people are having to pay for. So I hope to learn from you, and from everybody. So there's a lot to for the country to do for the country, and thanks for having me as well.
Thank you very much, Austin. And I really, us here in RTD, we really appreciate everyone's opinion and also the expertise of some of our guests here also. So our focus is to learn from everyone's point of view. Yun talaga siya. And we always stick with the non-partisan vision for RTD. And then, Austin, you're always welcome here. Same with our regular guest, which is our regular speaker now, PSC, and everyone else. And guys, please don't forget regular RTD sessions every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. till 11, and we might extend or it depends on how hot the topic is. So just in case you wanted to be added on our GC or group chat, please feel free to message page roundtable discussions. And yeah, don't forget to add page roundtable discussions to your page or X page. Please also share and like our posts. Ayun. See you again, guys, this coming Tuesday. Hopefully, we can have more um, news to talk about. All right, and if ever you want to add something, a specific topic, then just feel free also to message us. All right, guys. Appreciate all of you. We love you, and see you again this Tuesday. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Banlaw space
Yung I
na.
love you, para kanino yon?
For everyone. But then
Thank
again,
you.
we're gonna have Banlao space after this one. Ayungin Shoal.
You know what to do.
You know what to do.
What?
Three,
Bye.
two,
Okay.
one.
End it.
Thank you, guys.
All right.